Coming up on this Wednesday edition of Daybreak, the South Korean military's plan to adopt a US-made missile defense system faces criticism over concerns Seoul's homegrown shield may eventually be incorporated into Washington's missile defense system. A widely expected bipartisan Senate deal on temporarily extending the debt ceiling and giving extra state funding has been halted by a Republican-led House proposal blocking President Obama's healthcare law. It's a race against time as Washington will hit its debt limit on Thursday. Plus, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake hits the central Philippines, killing at least 93 people and injuring scores of others. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Wednesday, October 16th, and I'm Choi here in Seoul. The South Korean military is looking to adopt a U.S.-made missile defense system to strengthen its deterrence against North Korean attacks. But as the plan takes shape, it's becoming more apparent that it could be the target of criticism. Oh Jin-ju tells us why.
The Korean Army is reportedly eyeing the adoption of a U.S.-designed missile defense system called the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, that could strike short, medium, and intermediate-range ballistic missiles in midair during their terminal phase. The plan falls in line with the government's efforts to build a multi-layered missile shield against North Korean attacks, in addition to a push to create its own defense system, the Korea Air and Missile Defense, or KAMD, which targets low-flying missiles. The government is focusing on upgrading the country's current PAC-2 missiles imported from Germany to U.S.-made PAC-3 system in its development of the KAMD. The Defense Ministry said on Tuesday it is mulling over plans to bring in an additional missile defense system for altitudes below 100 kilometers to strengthen its lower-tier defenses. THAAD missiles can reach an altitude of 40 to 150 kilometers. However, the plan is likely going to be met with criticism by those who believe that South Korea may eventually join Washington's missile defense system, since that is a key part of it. There has been speculation that the U.S., as part of its strategic rebalance toward Asia, wants Seoul to become part of its regional defense system in return for the postponement in the transfer of wartime operational control to South Korea to 2015. The cost of adopting the system is another problem. The ministry currently plans to bring in 2 THAAD systems, which would come with a price tag of more than 2 trillion won, or $1.9 billion. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
South Korea's top nuclear envoy has warned that North Korea is ready to conduct another nuclear test as it has the capability to do so. At a forum in Seoul on Tuesday, Cho Tae-yong said there were signs the North has reactivated its 5-megawatt reactor at the Yongbyon nuclear facility, and construction was underway for a small-scale light water reactor. Cho then said the Kim Jong-un regime's openness about its nuclear ambitions has forced its biggest ally, China, to turn its back, and Beijing would likely stop giving preferential treatment to the regime, saying no tangible outcome could be expected even if the six-party talks were to resume at this juncture. The envoy added Seoul and Washington agree, urging Beijing to persuade Pyongyang to denuclearize is a more effective strategy. The mother of Kenneth Bae, the Korean-American who has been detained in North Korea for almost a full year now, has spoken up for the first time since being allowed to visit her son. Bae Myung-hee said she was able to see her son 3 times during her recent stay in Pyongyang and was happy to report his health was improving. She added that she was now more anxious than ever to bring her son home and that it broke her heart to leave him behind. Kenneth Bae was sentenced to 15 years in a North Korean labor camp earlier this year for what the regime called hostile acts. He is reportedly suffering from a number of health issues, including diabetes, high blood pressure, and back problems. And here in the South, lawmakers continued their questioning of government officials Tuesday on the second day of the nation's largest ever parliamentary audit. Contentious issues, including President Park's scaled-back pension program and North Korea-related policies, took center stage. Our Kim Young-gil tells us more.
In the run-up to the audit, both ruling and opposition party lawmakers had vowed to do their best to conduct a thorough and fair audit in a cordial manner. Monday might have tested their resolve, but Tuesday's schedule could push their best intentions to the limit as a number of politically sensitive issues are up for discussion. Lawmakers probed the Board of Audit and Inspection amid suspicions the organization had been filing favorable audit reports for the controversial and hugely expensive Four Rivers Restoration Project, which was the pet project of former President Lee Myung-bak. The Audit Board Secretary General Kim Young-ho said that Lee also bears some responsibility for his plan to eventually link the rivers in a single canal, which is presumed to have aggravated the water quality of the rivers. Lawmakers also continued to quiz officials about the Park administration's promised pension program. All senior citizens aged 65 or above were to receive a monthly allowance of $187, but the plan was scaled back to providing a monthly allowance of between $94 to $187 to only the poorest 70%. Ruling's Henry Party lawmakers said scaling the plan back was the best option for the nation's financial health. Opposition lawmakers said the president had gone back on a key campaign pledge. Meanwhile, lawmakers also questioned Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae about the administration's North Korea policies. Minister Ryu told lawmakers that the North notified the South on Tuesday that it's inappropriate to invite foreign investors to the joint inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex, the day after the South indefinitely postponed a business session aimed at attracting foreign investors. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Moving now to the ongoing crackdown on one of the country's largest conglomerates. Prosecutors raided the affiliates of cash-strapped Dongyang Group and the homes of its chairman and board members on Tuesday. Dongyang is being probed over allegations it issued a massive number of fraudulent commercial papers and corporate bonds to investors despite its financial difficulties. 3 of the affiliates filed for court receivership at the end of last month. Prosecutors say they will analyze the seized documents and summon Dongyang Group officials and executives for questioning.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye planned, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday.
With just 2 days left before the U.S. Treasury Department says it will run out of borrowing capacity, the Senate and House are still struggling to come up with plans to raise the nation's debt ceiling and end the government shutdown. The Senate has stopped discussions on its own plan as it waits for a divided Republican-led House of Representatives to come up with its own proposal ahead of the Thursday deadline. Those on the right of the Republican Party, driven by support from Tea Party activists, want changes to President Obama's signature health care law as part of any deal. The Treasury Department has warned a default might trigger a financial crisis and recession that could echo the events of 2008 or worse. At least 93 people have been killed after a massive earthquake hit popular tourist destinations in the central Philippines Tuesday. The U.S. Geological Survey said the 7.2 magnitude quake struck Bohol Island shortly after 8 a.m. local time. The quake was followed by several aftershocks, each with a magnitude of 5 or higher. Schools and businesses were closed at the time for a national holiday, which may have helped to save lives. China is the golden ticket for most Korean exporters. It's massive, right on Korea's doorstep, and continues to grow at a fast pace, but local firms have a rough time getting their goods to market. They find themselves tied up in lengthy customs procedures and bureaucratic red tape. Things could be about to get a lot easier, though, as our Kim Min-ji explains.
This container is being inspected at China's General Administration of Customs. For the cargo owner, the cost of inspection is a burden, but what's worse is the week-long wait they have to go through before their product can undergo the customs clearance procedure. The cargo owner must also complete a complicated set of advanced paperwork before shipping their goods. But certain products from Korea are allowed to pass through customs checkpoints without all of the hassle. Korean businesses can also take care of the advanced paperwork after the clearance procedure, saving time and making it more convenient. This is thanks to the authorized economic operator agreement signed by Korea and China at the bilateral summit in June. Under the agreement, products made by accredited operators are allowed to pass through customs checkpoints with fewer or no inspections.
An authorized economic operator is a business that has been accredited for safety and has a demonstrated understanding of customs laws and procedures in both countries. AEO-certified firms had the advantage of having to undergo fewer inspections when passing through customs checkpoints.
Along with the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement, the AEO, which reduces the time spent on customs procedures, is expected to boost the trade volume between the two countries and facilitate the time-consuming customs process for Korean businesses that export to China.
The FTA is a measure that deals with tax, while the AEO deals with customs clearance procedures. Having the AEO is akin to lifting a tax barrier.
The Korea-China AEO is currently being implemented in a trial run and will officially go into effect in December, facilitating trade between Korea and the world's second largest economy. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The Korean government pumps over $3 billion a year into industrial research and development, but the returns on its investment are diminishing. Our Paul Lee has more on how these government-funded projects are all out of ideas, or even worse, simply black holes for public money.
The Korean government has been pumping vast amounts of money into industry-related research and development. However, not every project is a success story. This research into semiconductor production cost $4.7 million over 3 years, but ended in commercial failure due to the rising price of raw materials. Another company spent some $5.9 million of government funds on developing lightweight aluminum car parts without any results. In order to stay at the forefront of technological innovation, Korea's Ministry of Industry and Trade has been steadily increasing its budget to fund various R&D programs with nearly $3.1 billion spent just last year. It's a healthy spending figure, but according to data from the ministry and a National Assembly lawmaker, the results aren't adding up. The number of government-funded R&D projects that have yielded commercially viable innovations has been declining. Of the more than 6,100 cases from 2009 through last year, only 4% were deemed successful. Experts say one of the reasons for the rise in failing research projects involves severe mismanagement. Audits of failed R&D programs show a rising number were deemed as insincere failures, meaning that the project managers misused funds or conducted unethical business practices. Local politicians say the figures are a deep concern.
This, of course, is a very poor performance report. On the technical skills side, we're in a situation where we're still lagging behind compared to other foreign companies. Results like these may even lead to a very serious situation.
Korea's national R&D funding still remains further behind compared to other countries such as the US and Japan. Nonetheless, greater transparency and stricter funding regulations will be needed moving forward to ensure taxpayer money isn't being lost down the drain. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Some of the world's most distinguished intellectuals and innovators are in Seoul this week for the World Knowledge Forum. The theme this year is One Asia Metamorphosis in recognition of Asia's growing presence on the world stage. Kim Hyun-ji was there.
The speakers at the 14th World Knowledge Forum say they recognize that the world needs fresh leadership as the strength of the U.S. and Europe has waned, along with the growth potential of China. Former Prime Minister of Thailand, Thaksin Shinawatra, says that an integrated Asia could offer new leadership by adopting a growth model that's different from the mass production model of the West. Shinawatra's idea of One Asia envisions connecting Asian countries with a high-speed logistics system that could boost local industries and small and medium-sized firms, allowing Asian entrepreneurs to tap into their creativity. Shinawatra stressed, however, that the One Asia vision can be achieved only when the participating countries settle political or territorial disputes. Meanwhile, Larry Summers of Harvard University said that Asia's role will only get bigger and predicted the U.S. would have a less dominant presence in the next century.
So I believe that the challenge that will determine whether all of this works out peacefully, equally, and freely for the benefit of people everywhere, that will be determined in the United States, and it will be determined in Asia.
When asked to offer his prescriptions for the Korean economy, Summers pointed to education, saying that the focus should be on producing creative thinkers. Creativity was a key point for many speakers, including Salman Khan, the founder of the Khan Academy, which offers thousands of academic videos in 23 languages for free. He said the best kind of education allows students to work at their own pace and take ownership of their learning.
Forum participants will have a chance to further explore ways to foster creativity across a range of disciplines and develop the One Asia concept in the domains of business, finance, and IT ventures. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with a big matchup that took place last night at the Cheonan Sports Complex. That's right, the Taeguk Warriors taking on Mali with fans hoping to see some offense, and guess what? They got plenty. Now, the Koreans were very aggressive from the start in this game, but it was Mali's Mobito Maiga who scores on a header here in the 27th minute of the match as Mali takes a 1-0 lead. You go over to the 36th minute of the match. A handball is called in a penalty box, and Kujachar takes the spot kick here and converts it 1-1. And that's how the first half concludes, but 20 seconds into the second half of the match, Sensation Son Heung-min finds the back of the net here, and Korea takes a 2-1 lead. More offense from the Koreans, but this time it's Kim Bo-kyung of Cardiff City scores in the 56th minute, and that's how things end, 3-1 Korea. An impressive victory for Ho Myung-bo and his crew. And staying in the sport, while it seemed like Park Ju-young was on his way to Wigan on loan, looks like the deal hit a snag as Wigan decided to pull out of the deal. Now, the negotiation between Arsenal and Wigan goes nowhere as Wigan decides they couldn't wait any longer to sign an emergency loan. And this is, of course, bad news for the Korean striker since he isn't getting any playing time with Arsenal. Now, manager Hong Myung-bo made it clear that he needs to get back in form in order to increase his chances at getting back to the national team. But with this latest news, things aren't looking too good for Park Ju-young. And now shifting over to the majors, the Dodgers were down 2-0 in the best-of-7 National League Championship Series against the St. Louis Cardinals, but then Lee Hyun-jin came to rescue and pitched what many are calling his greatest performance ever. Now pitching in front of a sold-out Dodger Stadium, Lee Hyun-jin looks composed and pitches 7 innings of no-run ball, giving up just 3 hits on 1 walk and striking out 4 batters in the process. The Dodgers meanwhile scored 3 times in the game, good enough for a 3-0 win. Now, the lefty looked very different compared to his outing against the Braves during the division series and hit 153 kilometers per hour on his fastball and mixed it up with his off-speed pitches as well. And speaking of the playoffs, later tonight, the second round of the 2013 KBO postseason begins as the Tusan Bears and the LG Twins are set to square off. After an impressive win against the Nexen Heroes, the Tusan Bears look to continue their miracle run as they face off against the well-rested LG Twins. While the Tusan Bears finished off the regular season with the best offense in the league, the LG Twins boast the best pitching in the league. Meanwhile, Game 1 starters No Kyung-eun for the Tusan Bears and Lee Jae-guk for the LG Twins in the best-of-5 series. And finishing things off with some Tuesday night KBL action as KCC Aegis took on Ulsan Mobis Phoebus. Going into the game here right from the start, Mobis outscores KCC 24-12 in the first quarter of the game before going into the second half with a 51-28 lead. Now KCC's Tyler Wilkerson scores game-high 23 points in this game, but Moon Tae-young, Ham Ji-yoon, Ricardo Ratliff, and Rod Benson all scoring double digits in the game as Mobis absolutely crushes KCC 101-58. The 43-point margin is the biggest in KBL history as Mobis starts off the season at 3-0. And with all that said, that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Wednesday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. So about 2 centimeters of snow piled up in Mount Seorak yesterday. It was the first snow of this season. And right now, it feels like it's gonna snow here soon in Seoul as well. It's cold outside. That's because morning low plunged deep into the single digits in the central region overnight. So we are waking up to the coolest, or I would say coldest, of the autumn season so far overall nationwide. And it's going to be a chilly day, but bright and sunny with temperatures hovering 17 to 18 degrees Celsius across the region. Now tomorrow seems like pretty much like today's weather forecast. We'll continue to see sunny skies, but the cooler air will bring down the mercury level a tad lower in the morning hours, and afternoon highs will be just slightly higher than today. So if you haven't dressed up warm enough, please do so from today. I mean, it's always better to feel warmer than a little cold, don't you think? Morning low will stay single digit till Saturday and will rise a couple of degrees higher, but the lowest temperature will remain near 10 degrees Celsius in the Seoul and surrounding area from now on. So please keep this in mind and let's get ready for the winter. Well, today is the coldest day in this year's autumn so far, so let's take a look. Seoul started off at 8 and afternoon highs in Seoul, and Daegu will get up to 17 degrees Celsius, which is about 63 degrees in Fahrenheit, and Gwangju and Busan will rise to 18 with lots of sunshine. For other regions, Jeju should also top out at 18 as well, with a few clouds passing by later in the day, and Daejeon will rise to 17, but Mount Kumgang will wake up to the coldest morning of the season at -2. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Don't forget to bundle up before heading out, and hope you have a wonderful day.
And those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Stay with us throughout the day as we bring you the latest headlines.